Today we have an interview with a couple that wanted to move from Chicago, get out of the cold and move to Florida. They went through career changes, planning and paying for a wedding, a family friend realtor who at first seemed like they had good vibes, but really didn't have the experience to help them. They also went through different lenders. They were looking for someone to give them the right guidance, not just an approval, and then push them into any home that fit their max approval, which of course meant they went through the PMI debate, 20% down or 10% down and pay PMI. Great story on that. And they also went through making sure that they avoided a money pit. But the big piece we got from Isaac and his wife was the story that, boy, if they'd only known sooner, they wouldn't have waited too long. Let's hear their story.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
Okay, homies, another How to Buy a Home success story. This is Isaac, who's in Orlando, Florida. And I believe Isaac and I first started talking back in December of 2024. And when'd you close on the home there? End of February?
It was February 26th.
February 26th. So is that really the time frame? You reached out in December and we're like, what, under contract in under a month?
Yeah, so we started looking at homes shortly after I connected with you, and I mean it was a really quick process.
Incredible. Okay, so you got to tell us. We'll get deeper into how that time frame worked for you, but I ask everyone right up top, what's your biggest tip for new first-time home buyers out there trying to be just like you?
I think the first thing I would say comes to my mind is don't wait. And whether you think you're going to be ready in 2 months or 2 years, like just start planning. Just start now.
Ooh, okay. Dig into that. What were the things that you found along the way that made that piece of advice the first thing you want to tell people? Don't wait.
So I kind of feel like our story is a little bit of a cautionary tale because we probably waited way too long. We were probably ready years, if not a decade ago or more, to buy a house, and for various reasons. So, and maybe what I'll do is just kind of tell our story a little bit and what we thought and why we were hesitant. So my wife and I, when we first started dating, we met in Chicago. At the time, I had just finished school. She was wrapping up, and we met, we dated. We were in Chicago I was there for about 5 years before we ended up moving to Orlando. But during that time, bought a car, saved up, bought a ring, proposed. And then we were like, okay, well, we want to move to Florida. We came down for a wedding one February, and that was like the nail in the coffin. Like, what are we doing up here in the cold? And so we moved down here. Then we started saving for the wedding. Anyone who's married knows isn't cheap. And then right after the wedding, my wife made a career change. She was a teacher and decided to become a nurse. So was fully supportive. Love that she went out and did that. We incurred more debt. So we had to, I think the reason I'm telling like the whole backstory is because I think that all these events that happened in our life were like, okay, well, we're not ready. We can't save. We're putting money here. We've got some credit card debt. Now we want to pay that down. We joke around now, like when we got married in 2016 and we say, man, you know what? And maybe this is more me than her. So it's a good thing she's not sitting here next to me, but maybe we should have done this in reverse order and bought the house first. We would have saved a boatload of money if we had done that. But we don't live in the past. We know that, listen to your podcast gave us some different perspectives. Like, hey, the right time to buy a house is when you're ready, not trying to wait out the market, which guilty here. I saw what happened in 2020, 21 or 21 and said, let's just wait for this thing to come down. And I think there were some false perceptions that we had when it came to, how we wanted to go about buying a house, or some reasons why we didn't buy a house at times, thinking, we're going to be locked in and tied to something if we do that. And it's so much easier to get out of a rental property than it is a home. So I think there were just some things like that kind of kept us buying a home was kind of at bay. So at end of 21, we're at an apartment. It was a 1,100 square foot, 2-2. So it was very comfortable, really nice little spot. A few things happened. One, Hurricane Ian hit that year. My wife's car got flooded, so we ended up having to total that car and get a new one. And we're like, ooh, I don't know if we like this area anymore. Getting flooded will change your perception quite a bit about a neighborhood.
Yeah.
But then after that, they jacked up our rent 300 something. So we're somewhere around, and I'm going to forget numbers because I don't remember, but we were probably somewhere around 1,600, and then it was almost 2,000. And we're like, you know what? Let's really talk about getting a house. And we're going to have to save. We're going to have to pay down the debt that we incurred. My wife's now a nurse and she's working and making money. So we're saying to ourselves, okay, let's get a plan together. Let's do this 1 year. We're going to live in a tiny little shoebox for 1 year and downsize and save money and buy a house. So now we're at the end of 23, and we actually put an offer on a house back in December of 2020. December of 23 or November 2023. And ended up pulling out and deciding that it wasn't for us. So the reason why, and I know I'm talking a lot, so stop me if you have any questions.
No, this is great. This story is awesome.
So the reason we pulled out was for a couple of reasons. We went with somebody that was familiar to the family, a realtor that we decided to engage. And the first meeting was great. Said, let's meet up at a bakery downtown by your office. We'll talk about what you're looking for, your must-haves, what you absolutely don't want. I want to give you everything that's available to you as first-time home buyers. And great first meeting, kind of like really did a good job of setting the table and making us feel very comfortable. When she introduced us to her lender, I think that's where we started kind of getting some feelings that, ooh, I don't know about this. The first was we had a ton of questions. And almost every question we had, we either didn't get an answer, didn't get the right answer, or went and did our research and found out it was the wrong answer. So we were really turned off by the whole process because of that. And then we saw, 20 to 30 houses that year. And it felt a little bit like we were being pushed to make a decision. I'll share a couple of stories, where I'm asking questions and I felt I was kind of like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. That's not really a big deal. At one point we walk into a house and it was visibly noticeable that the floor was like concave. It's like right in the middle. It came up and I was like, this floor's uneven. And I'm walking around like they had just remodeled the whole inside of the house. It was gorgeous. And we're like, but I couldn't get over the fact that the floor was uneven. So I went out to my truck and I grabbed a golf ball and I put it in the center and it rolled down one side, picked it up, put it on the other side, rolled down the other side. And I was like, this is a problem. There's probably like foundational issues with this house, right? She's like, oh, no. I think you're thinking about it the wrong way. It's not going to be prone to flooding because it's so high up. I was like, what?
What?
I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, so we got home and I'm like, I don't know about this, either of them now. I have my doubts. And then we saw one house that we fell in like with, like we didn't love it. We really liked it. And we thought we loved it because when you see it on the outside, it had a really, gorgeous yard and a really beautiful entrance, but there were some weird things. The layout was funny. You could only enter the backyard through the master bedroom. Had a really cool big backyard, but there were just some things about it that when they send the contract over, we're looking it over, we're like, do we really want to do this? And we're like, you know what? I don't know. Plus, one thing I didn't mention, they were pushing a couple of different loan programs on us. I think one was like maybe Hometown Heroes, and I'm forgetting another one. But one of the questions we kept asking is, are we going to be locked into PMI? Because at this point, we had about 10% saved, which we had heard up to that point. Hey, save 10% and you can buy a home.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you'll be fine. You'll be locked in. Or I think we might have even been told we wouldn't be locked in. We found out we would. And then, so we were just like, we're not ready. I was like, you know what, let's save up 20% and we'll buy a house next year. And I told my wife, I promise you next year we'll be in a house. I promise you that. And, so we started saving. I started listening to your podcast before I ever reached out to you. And you had said a few things that got, my wheel spinning, because my wife and I like to travel. We like to, go out and do things and enjoy our life outside of work and the home.
Yeah.
So I've heard different folks talk about either, putting less down, putting some money in savings, being able to use some of that income. PMI is not the scariest thing. And so we had enough by the time we met with, and I'll talk a little bit more about our experience with our unicorn lender and realtor. But before we met them, we had saved enough money to put 20% down on, in my mind, what I thought we were going to pay for a house. So even with being able to do a little bit of traveling, we still had a chunk of money that we were going to be able to put down. But in the back of my head, I still kept that thought in my mind that, we don't have to put the 20% down. We can use it if we want to do some other things to the house or savings wise, and, or travel or other things that we want to put the money toward. I reached out to you. You introduced me to Cindy. We jump on a call with Cindy, and all my questions were about loans and, buying down points and all these different things. And she says, you know what? She knew what we wanted in a house. She asked us those questions already. She says, you need to talk to Kevin. Let me see if Kevin's available. If he's not, there's another lender I can get on the horn. And this is like a 7:00 on a Saturday, or it might have been a week evening. I don't remember. But we jump on the call with Kevin, and we were on the call for about an hour and 40 minutes. And he answered every single question we had. He pushed back and challenged us a little bit too. One of his first questions was, hey, would you be afraid of a $4,000 mortgage? And we're like, yeah, there's no way we're going to ever spend $4,000 on a mortgage. That's ridiculous. And he's like, okay. He goes, you could do that though. Like if you budget correctly, you could do that. He goes, the only reason I'm asking is that I don't know if you know what your limit is. Cause, initially we're like, oh, we want to be, $2,000, $2,800 for a mortgage, somewhere around there. So we had an idea in our mind, and he said, what about like the price of the home? And I was like, in my mind, I've got a number, and I'm sharing it with him. He says, you qualify for, with your dual income, you could afford much more house than that. And so again, I'm like, okay, I don't know. We'll see. Let's wait till we go look at some houses. But I think that also kind of just set the table that, hey, here's the possibility. I'm not saying you have to go out and spend this much money. I'm not saying you have to have this mortgage income, but you could do this and still live pretty comfortably. And you need to think about, what the possibilities are. And I think he was kind of seeing what our limit was and what our threshold was.
Well, he's also setting the expectation, because if that number for 2,800 is a $350,000 house, I'm just making that number up right now.
Yeah.
And you walk into 10 $350,000 houses, then you can look at each other and go, okay, so for $1,000 more a month, do we want to see what else we could get? And then you look at a different price.
Which is basically what happened.
I pulled that number out of thin air, but I know what you paid. You ended up at $437.
Yeah.
So I had a guess.
In my mind, it was $350, and my ceiling was $385. And and we saw what we could get for $350 to $385. And you either got a cute house in a decent neighborhood, or a really small house in a really nice neighborhood, or there's one episode where you talk about, and I can't remember exactly how you phrase it, but it's like the realtor triangle, or there's price, location. I can't remember what the other thing is, but
it's and it was another unicorn that came up with that. It's location, affordability, and then I forget the term, but it's basically like the type of home, the size of the home.
Yeah, like the musts and wants in the house, like your must. Yeah. So, and I use spreadsheets a lot with work, and even just organize some stuff at home. So I came up with my own formula. So my wife has her list of must-haves and wants, and I had my list of must-haves and wants, and we kind of graded everything out. And we said, okay, all else equal, if we come to a house and we can't decide between two, we're going to plug everything into this formula and see what the scores are for the different homes. And then
point valuations
yes.
for must-haves, and I love it.
We had negative values for things that we absolutely did not want either. Like the highest negative value for me was flood zone. If we're in a flood zone, there's no way I'm going to live there. So I was scarred from that experience, and we had that in our back pocket if we were torn between two homes, which we never really got to that point. But it was kind of cool to go through that exercise. I think it helped us gather our thoughts and really understand what we really absolutely must have. And one of the things we kept coming back to were like, neighborhood. And we had different definitions. I think you talked about this on a couple of episodes where my idea of a good neighborhood is a little bit different from her idea of a good neighborhood. My threshold is probably a little bit different than hers, what maybe is scary or potentially scary. I mean, where we were living before this, I remember, where we ended up living there for 2 years to save up to buy.
Was this the shoebox?
The shoebox.
It was the shoebox place.
It was 500. It was 500 square feet, one bed, one bath, and we couldn't have people over. It was a duplex, so we're sharing a wall, cramped, carport, but
it was a mission.
It was a mission. It was a means. It was a mission. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remember,
but you felt more comfortable. I run into this all the time. I mean, I'm as equal rights as anybody out there. But, with my wife, she's like, you're fine walking down the street. I don't want to walk down the street by myself. And I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
And it does change. So it's good to have those conversations to understand the thresholds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it created some tense moments, I think, during the home buying process, but I don't think there's anybody who goes through this that doesn't have those. So, we kept saying we'll laugh about this someday, and I don't know, maybe over an adult beverage we will. I don't think we have yet, but there've been some funny moments.
But you're enjoying the home that you're sitting in right now, and you're both happy with that, yeah?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it hasn't come without some moments. There's, again, going back to that triangle.
Yeah,
things we had to give up. We went up on the price for one. But I think that got us into the neighborhood that we like, because we love this neighborhood. Met a lot of the neighbors, have already gone to a social event that they had to kick off the summer, and talking about planning some other things with neighbors. We're about to take a trip to Puerto Rico. One of them's going to watch our dog, and they're coming over to meet with us there. So it's like that neighborhood, like we're really excited about that part. And that was one of the things that was super high on her list, pretty high on my list. I probably would have been like, hey, if we're close to a pub that I could walk to, that's kind of cool to me. I think she likes that too, but I think the neighborhood aspect of it was really big on her list. So I think we've had moments where it's like, and I'm probably dating myself, and maybe a lot of listeners aren't going to remember this, but if you think back to Money Pit, I think we've had some moments where we were like, oh my God, what did we get ourselves into? We got some estimates for some work that we wanted done in the house, and we, see things that we thought were breaking. We're like, we're going to have to pour more money into this. And so it hasn't come without, hasn't been stress-free, but at the end of the day, especially the common areas, we absolutely love the common areas. We've spent time fixing up the way we want. I would say the house is probably somewhere between 80 and 90% done. We've got very minor cosmetic things we want to do to the house, but foundation, it's a great house, great neighborhood. I love the house. I think my wife really likes the house, but it's our first home. We've always said that, hey, just because we're here now doesn't mean we have to stay here. 5-10 years down the line, we might want to sell, but we'll have poured some money into it. And one cool thing is, and I'm kind of jumping all over the place now, I just didn't want to forget to mention this, is, we had gone through some experiences, like I said, put an offer on a house a year prior, we backed out. During this process, and I haven't talked about Cindy, our realtor, yet, what I loved about her was that she had such a keen eye and was so picky on our behalf that she would be like, here's what you got to worry about this house. Here's what you need to look out for. There was a couple of times we walk up to a house and be like, do you guys even want to go in? And there was a couple of times where I'm like, I kind of do, because I like the pictures. I want to see this. And then she'd be like, well, I don't think you're going to like it because X, Y, and Z. And then we walk out and be like, she was right. Like, I didn't like that house. So she she was very particular on our behalf and would point out things and made sure that we knew all the things that came with every house. Even this one, we were in the neighborhood and we were pretty close to the airport, and she made a comment like, "Are those planes going to bother you?" And I was like, "We lived by
Yep.
the airport before; it's not going to bother us." We were at another house where she said, "Is that there's a sound wall behind you? It's you're going to hear traffic. Is that going to bother you?" We're like, "Not at all." She's like, "Is that traffic going to bother you?" And we're like, "No, not at all." And as we're walking the house, we're like, "That is actually really loud. That you could hear every single car like it's running through the living room." So she did give us, that level of attention to detail, and was the exact opposite of what we had before, where it was something that we felt like was pushing the house on us. So that part was really
Yeah,
cool.
asking you about things that potentially could be negative. And we have to ask because what might completely bug us might be no big deal for you. You're also thinking about, potentially down the line, is the family going to enjoy this resale? All of those things come into play. And you also want to make sure that if someone is emotionally attached in something, that you're like, hey, just so you know, pump the emotional brakes and let's really look at everything here versus the person who's trying to tell you this house is perfect as the golf ball's rolling out the door.
Yeah, exactly. We had plenty of moments like that. There's one where when we looked at this house, we saw two other houses after it. And the one that we saw after this was about 30 to maybe even 50,000 more than this house.
Uh-huh.
But online, the pictures were gorgeous. And I was worried that we were going to buy that house because it was way over what my initial budget was. And my wife was like really excited about it. And I was, when we went to go see it, Cindy actually started pointing some things out. And she said, foundationally, this is like lipstick on a pig. It looks nice, but you're going to have to replace all these windows. And she just started like rattling things off. And I was like, oh man, like that's true. Like, I don't know if I feel comfortable spending this much more money, knowing I have to pour in that to get this house where we need it.
Well, and they'll take the photos to make it look great. And then, like you were talking about right now, like you love the house and your wife likes the house and is waiting for a few more things to get fixed. Well, aren't you glad that you're in a position where you really love the neighborhood, but like the house and it's $30,000, $40,000 less?
Yeah.
Because, and it's the give and take. It's the compromise. It's the flexibility that needs to happen. And having that advocate that isn't afraid to point out what's wrong. Because your unicorn, Cindy, isn't thinking about get this sale and never talk to you again.
Right.
She's thinking about make you guys happy so that, you and I just met and you're telling the story like this person sucked, this person's great. That's, when we do our job and we know that people say this person was head and shoulders above everyone else, then we know that in the long run, that's going to be good for our business,
Yeah.
And you talked about, it's so interesting because you guys were so disciplined and oh my God, you married a saint. She was a teacher and then became a nurse. Dude, you were a lucky man.
And she married me. You have no idea.
But to have the discipline, to have that sandbox mentality, yet after you were done, or the shoebox discipline of. But you started this by saying, boy, I wish I'd done it sooner. And again, me too, bud. I'm in the exact same, I did that whole thing. And it wasn't until I learned all this. What part of the process made you feel like, oh, this was something that we could have considered earlier, even though you had, initial car purchase, wedding purchase, repurchase of another car after a flood. Was it because when you got with the right people and got the questions answered, you realized that you were in a better position earlier?
Yes. So I think that's a huge part of it. And that's why I say whether it's, you think you're ready now or ready in the future to buy a home, you advocate for get with somebody to come up with a plan, because you may be closer than you realize, for one, or if you're not ready, then you need a plan so that you are ready. So I felt like talking to them, not only were we were ready for more than I thought we were ready for, more home than I thought we were ready for. I just feel like I wish when I actually first started listening to the podcast, I felt like we're on the path, we're getting close. But I still don't feel like I'm knowledgeable enough to buy a house. I don't know what all the different loan types are. I don't know what all the different, and so you made a pretty good analogy, and I shared that too with my wife, who I think could appreciate it. Was, we're not expected to be experts at buying homes as a first-time home buyer or second or third-time home buyer. That's not your
Yeah.
That's not your goal. That's not your profession. That's not your focus. That's why you rely on that doctor who knows how to perform the surgery. Yeah, you want to read up and make sure enough about it, or what the potential, other procedures or whatever else that you can ask the doctor.
But you don't need to know which grade scalpel to use.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Isaac, I could have told you, dude, now that you and I have talked, like, I make the podcast for you.
Yeah.
A spreadsheet guy putting numeric values on things to create a formula. I made it for you because I know that at some point earlier, someone could have given you those steps. And what just fills my heart is you're the kind of person who could spend a year researching online, Googling everything you need to know about loans. And if you called an online lender, they would have given you like your first experience. Or, but when you got to a unicorn level lender, was at 7 p.m., you got everything answered. That's why it's like, I'm just trying to tell people, no matter where you are in the process, many of you are probably over-prepared. But if you're not, this isn't a magic formula. I'm just telling you, you can go find the right person. And unlike a lawyer, you pay a lawyer $300 an hour, you get what you pay for. You pay but the big defense attorneys charge $5,000 an hour. Well, in real estate, it's the same. You might have to pay a little bit more depending on the new buyer broker agreement right now, but it's not like as a first-time home buyer, you have to sacrifice and go with the bottom of the barrel. And the PMI for you, that I took so many notes when you were talking, the false perceptions. Oh my God, have you done the math to figure out how much rent you paid from 2016 to 2024? If you have, I'm sorry. If you haven't, don't.
Yeah, I have, and it hurts.
Oh.
I could have paid for half of a house by now.
It's okay. We're here. I think one of the great things about your story, Isaac, is that people now won't see a house as and then. I think you can plan for a car, a wedding, and a house all at the same time. Too many people just go, well, wedding first and then house. Well, think about both. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It should be in the same financial budgeting as a new car, and you guys had to make that transition. And your wife is probably obviously much happier now that she went from one profession to the other. You mentioned something. I was just going through my notes right now, golf ball. My very first home inspector, when I started in real estate, I was like, who is this guy? When he pulled out a marble.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And I love that they tried to sell you with, well, it's because you're raised. Oh, great. So the middle of my living room won't get flooded, but my baseboards will. Yeah. That's not making me feel better. The funny layout. Boy, that is something I try to talk to people about all the time. A weird entrance in a house is so hard to change. Or if you have to walk through another room to get to a room, but if it has beautiful kitchens and the right paint, people will still say like, that's the home for me. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, that was something that caught your eye. When you got to this place, because you do like to travel and you do like to do things, was that higher payment? Did you still go with the 20% down, or did you do a different down payment?
So what we ended up doing was 10% down. So that we could put some money aside, so we could have savings, so we could still travel. Plus, there were some renovations that we wanted to do on the house before we moved in. So we actually didn't move in for about 3 weeks. We had popcorn ceiling taken down. We had everything painted, and we had about, I would say, 60% of the house refloored. So the main common area when you walk in, the tile was in good condition. And so we left that, but then there was like 3 different types of flooring and carpet, and we just said we wanted to get rid of that. So we wanted. But
you kept that crossover period where you kept your apartment so that you could do the renovations.
Yeah, we actually ended up paying three months, month to month, And
Smart.
we just said, hey, we know it's a little bit more, but I didn't care. It was a couple $100 more a month to be able to get everything done, which would have been much worse having to refloor this house after we moved in.
Oh my gosh, the headaches versus dollar amount, you scored. I mean, on the podcast, I tell people all the time, it just baffles me that people are like trying to plan the exact day of their lease to the day they move in. I'm like, empty house is the best house to renovate. So those extra months are perfect for you. So I was just having this discussion with Kelly, my one and only unicorn lender, about the lower down payment option, because more people are reaching out to me right now. Are you sucking it up and doing the full payment off of your salary like your lender thought you could, or are you pulling a little bit from that 10% that you kept in the bank?
We're paying about $200 more a month on our mortgage. So I think that's what you're asking, right? Are we paying more than the mortgage?
Well, you kept the 10% in the bank because you didn't do 20% down.
Oh, yeah. That's what you're saying.
So is the new mortgage payment a lot higher than your old rent? Or are you saying it's only $200 more?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I misunderstood what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're not pulling from the 10,000 to make larger payments. We're keeping our savings there. We're still making a larger payment on our mortgage so that we can eat away at So one of the things that Kevin did was he gave me a spreadsheet, and it has, here's how much it would if you paid down, how long it would take. Here's how much if you paid more each month, and every month you could plug in the number, and you could see that when we did the math, we said, okay, we're going to go with an even 200 right now, and it's going to save us about 100,000 on the home at the end of the day once we pay it.
Yep.
So that's what we're plugging in there by throwing an extra 200 at the mortgage payment.
Okay. But that's still that new mortgage payment, even before the extra 200, was more than your rent.
Yes.
And you guys are comfortable making that stretch, and you're not having to touch that 10% that's left over?
Correct. Yep.
Wow. Well, it's the hardest time to make your mortgage payment ever in your life is going to be your first 2 or 3 years. So if you guys are doing this right now, you have the liquid cash. The PMI isn't, you've obviously, I don't even have to ask. I'm sure the PMI is on a spreadsheet somewhere.
Yeah, it is.
And, and, you guys are able to, and eventually with those, that's the thing I always like to tell people is all the budgeting and things that you do when people, they're probably not doing it at your level, Isaac, but when people do that, then once you're in the renovations and all the extra things, you can just create a new budget, when you're looking at what you're trying to do. This is amazing. And you guys bought in a nice little window here that I talked about, got in, and, we saw prices go up a little bit, and Florida's been an interesting time right now. And it seems like there's a bit of a survival going on. But you talked about the common areas. My last question, you're talking about the common areas in your house.
Mm-hmm.
You're not talking about, did you buy a home with an HOA, or is there a small one, or how's it work?
There's an HOA. It's only like $400 annual.
Okay.
So
it's just like community grounds, and that's it.
Yeah. When I say common areas, I meant in the home. So like
I knew that as soon as I said it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the part that you've renovated inside the house. That's what you were saying.
Yeah. We spent. I really like the layout, but even just what we've done with it, and that's why we felt. I fell in love with the house. My wife really liked the house, those aspects of the house.
But you had to fix it up for her.
Oh, we've already spent some of that money that we took from the 20% down payment. We poured into not only renovating, but also just filling up the house with some stuff. So we've got a library / bar that we built. We've got
can't walk to a pub, build one.
Yeah. Well, I say build. I didn't build it. I paid somebody to build it.
Of course.
So we've made just some really cool areas. We have a cool lanai. We love this little fireplace living room area, because open kitchen concept with a nice dining room. the backyard. So I actually didn't want a pool, but we have a pool, and it's got a very zen feel in the backyard. A funny story is there's actually a koi pond back there. The first time we looked at the house, we didn't realize it because there's a little pond in the front, and we thought it was the same thing. We thought it was just a little pond, and it was a little murky. Couldn't really tell there was fish in there. On the day that we closed, maybe it was during the inspection, I did another walk around, and I went back there. I was like, "Oh my God, there's fish in there!" And then, and then when we bought the house, I think when we closed, we're like, what are we going to do? And the owner left us. The owner was really cool. She left us like all this stuff. Like, here's everything we've done to the house. And one of the things was, here's how to care for the koi fish. And I was like, I want to sell these things. I don't want them. I want to get rid of that. And my wife's like, I don't know. Her and her sister said, I think we could fix it up and it'd look nice. And I was like, I'm not going to touch it. If you want to do it, that's you. I'm out. But she did like a really nice job, and it looks so cool now. And I'm like, I kind of like the koi pond. It's got such a cool look. So we got a little spot where we've got a koi pond. Then we've got the what's it called? The pergola that's right next to it. Then a pool, and then all my work people pitched in and got me this really cool grill smoker. So it's the backyard is like such a cool spot. We got and if you don't want to be there, you could be in a fan in the lanai, which is like a little sunroom here, which we have a dartboard, and it's got fixed up as a cool little spot just to hang out. And so we've if you can't tell, I really do love the house that we moved into.
Well, it's amazing the things that you find. Creating the Zen environment can be done anywhere. And one of the big, I think, lessons of this is find the people who are going to show you how far you can stretch, but not push you to stretch there. And then focus on the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And the things you can't change. You didn't realize that there could be a Zen backyard, but it got created, because your wife just kind of got a little inkling. And, I find more and more that the combination when people, instead of being afraid or distrusting and feel like they're being pushed into something, when possibilities are laid out with the option for you to go for it or not, that most of the time people will even if they feel like they're going for it, afterwards they're like, oh my God, and I did this over here. I had no idea how many different things I could do. And, here we are. And by the way, your house sounds like just super fun place to hang out.
If you're ever in Orlando.
I was going to say, next time I have to take the kids to Universal, I might stop by for a little amusement park break and come over and throw some darts with you and hang out.
That sounds good.
Well, I appreciate the time, Isaac. This is really, really helpful. And thank you so much. And enjoy your new home, my friend.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Thanks so much to Isaac. And the next time we take a trip to Disney World, I'm coming by to get some smoked meat. So many great lessons there, but I think the big one is don't listen to me. Listen to them. They're the ones that said, man, we should have started this sooner. Hindsight is 20/20. I'm telling you, I've been doing this 20 years. And every 3 years, every 5 years, people go, oh, I should have done this 3 years ago. I should have done this 5 years ago. And the only reason they don't is because they don't have the right team showing them all the options that are actually available to first-time homebuyers. So let's get your plan started. Go to howtobuyahome.com. Ask me a question right where it says Ask David, or go ahead and ask for your unicorn team and start asking them questions. If you're not ready, you're not ready. But at least you're starting to plan for the next 6, 8, or 12 months. Don't live a life of regrets. Get started today. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.